So welcome to this month's edition of EdTech Monday. Our topic for this month is Africa's Time, Africa's Terms, Learning for Sovereignty, Strength and Solidarity. It's a special edition we recorded at the opening plenary session of the E-Learning Africa Conference. So what is EdTech Monday? It's a platform for EdTech entrepreneurs, education stakeholders and policymakers to have critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. It's an initiative of the MasterCard Foundation as part of their broader Young Africa Work strategy, which focuses on enabling 30 million young Africans, particularly women, refugees and persons with disability, to access dignified and fulfilling work by 2030. Of course, this initiative is through the mechanism of their Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, and it's in partnership with the Meltwater School of Technology, MEST Africa, as on 97.3 Citi FM and Channel 1 television. So what are we looking at today? Well, at a moment of geopolitical and technological acceleration, with Africa's own population, young population, burgeoning very quickly, this plenary will set the stage for E-Learning Africa 2026 by examining how education and skill systems can underpin sovereignty, strengthen economies, and foster solidarity. Considers the role of things like AI, data, and digital infrastructure in shaping Africa's trajectory and what it will take for African societies to define the direction of the global knowledge economy, not simply to adapt to it. So who will we be hearing from? There are 5 critical speeches. The first will be delivered by E-Learning Africa's Dr. Ida Opoku-Mensah. She'll be followed by Auda Nepad, South Africa's Dr. Barbara Glover. We'll also hear from celebrated technologist, Professor Clement Jidonu. He's the president of the Accra Institute of Technology, known as AIT Ghana. We'll also hear from Miss Cindy Ako Nyamiche, who's the All Africa Students Union ASU Ghana representative. Finally, Education Minister for Ghana and Member of Parliament, Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, would also speak and express views on this very critical subject.
To set the ball rolling, I'd like to invite our chairperson of the conference, E-Learning Africa Ghana, also a leading and digital development expert and the founder and managing director of Centric Digital in Ghana. With a very big round of applause, please help us welcome up on stage Dr. Ida Opoku-Mensah to give us the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam MC. Let me recognize the Minister of Education of Ghana, our esteemed host, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Honorable Ministers and government representatives from across Africa, Excellencies, distinguished guests, my dear brother Clement, my co-grandparents, as you know, we started this way back some 20 odd years ago, and see where we are today. So it's good to see you, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizers of E-Learning Africa, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to Accra and to the 19th edition of E-Learning Africa. It is particularly special for me to welcome you here in my home country, Ghana, a country that has long been committed to education, innovation, and Pan-African cooperation. My own journey with eLearning Africa goes back to its earliest days, some 20 years ago. From the very first conference, I've had the privilege of working and watching this community grow from an ambitious idea into Africa's leading platform for dialogue, partnership, and collaboration in education, training, skills development, and technology. Over the years, I have seen ministers, educators, entrepreneurs, researchers, and development partners come together to share experiences, learn from one another, and build lasting relationships that continue long after the conference has ended. When the first eLearning Africa conference was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in 2006, the continent did not have an EdTech sector to talk of. Today, Africa's EdTech sector is booming with over 600 homegrown startups across Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, and Ghana. And there's a market, and the market for EdTech is projected to reach 19 billion by 2034. So this year, we gather under the theme, Africa's Time, Africa's Terms, Learning for Sovereignty, Strength, and Solidarity. The theme, of course, reflects a moment of profound change. Across Africa, we are witnessing rapid technological advances, demographic growth, new economic opportunities, and significant global shifts. These developments present both challenges and possibilities. The choices we make today about education skills, digital transformation, and innovation will shape the future of our societies for generations to come. It is our belief in eLearning Africa that Africa will rise by defining knowledge on its own terms. We hope to champion sovereignty in learning rooted in our languages, cultures, and realities, so that education reflects who we are. We need to ignite innovation for local impact, solutions born from African soil, African minds, African challenges. That gives us a strong platform to partner and to collaborate. From fintech to farming, health to AI, our creativity must serve our people first. We must build a united learning system, a continental network of shared knowledge, harmonized standards, and collective strength. Together, we can transform silos into synergy and diversity into power. We advocate that empowerment on Africa's terms, choosing our priorities, setting our agenda, and balancing tradition with modernity. Our future is not imported. It is authored here. It is time for policy alignment, governments that protect data sovereignty, fund local research, and champion innovation hubs. United governance is the backbone of united progress. It is imperative we embrace community-centered learning, knowledge that empowers all our citizens, whether they are farmers, artisans, or youth. Africa, with technological changes, should aspire to lead. Sovereignty, innovation, and unity are the pillars of our empowerment, on our terms for our people, and by our vision. We are honored to welcome participants from across Africa and around the world. Your presence here demonstrates a shared commitment to learning, partnership, and progress. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Government of Ghana through the Ministry of Education for hosting us and co-organizing with us. To our partners and supporters, and let me single out Respect, the Respect program of the SPICS Foundation. To our speakers and exhibitors, and to all those who have worked tirelessly to make this event possible, we say a big thank you. And as we say in Ghana, Aiko. Most importantly, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here and for contributing your knowledge, experience, and ideas to this remarkable community. I wish you an inspiring, productive, and enjoyable eLearning Africa 2026. Welcome to eLearning Africa. Akwaba.
I'd like to invite to give us a short speech from AUDA NEPAD, a leading advocate for science, technology, and innovation in Africa. Our next speaker serves as a program lead for Program for Inclusive and Productive Use of the Internet at AUDA NEPAD. Her name is Dr. Barbara Glover. With a very big round of applause, please help me welcome her up on stage.
Your Excellency, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Minister of Education of Ghana, Ms. Lydia Isfor, Chief Director of the Ministry of Education, Prof. Clement Jidonu, President of the Accra Institute of Technology, Dr. Aida Opoku-Mensah, Ms. Cindy Akonyamiche, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I've done the normal EU protocol, so now I would love to go to my keynote. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Barbara, and today I would love to tell you a story. Not many people know, but I grew up in northern Ghana. I remember my father taking me on a long bus ride to say that we are relocating. So we relocated from the eastern region to northern Ghana. We were in a village called Sanergu. At that point in time, it was a proper village. I mean, we had one taxi that goes to town. If you miss the taxi, you're walking to town. That's how much of a proper village it was. And then we enrolled in school. We got to learn a lot. And we used to come home for holidays. Home as in back to the south for holidays. And I got to engage with some of my cousins and colleagues. I realized that the teaching methods that some of my cousins were exposed to in Accra significantly differed from what I got from the northern region. And I was very determined that I was going to show these Accra people that we in the north too, we are very, intelligent. As a young child, I had to go through 2 constructive surgeries. And so I spent several months in Kolebu having surgery. And one thing that helped me, because I was very determined, my father is Catholic, so I wanted to go to Holy Child School. Are there any Hobsons in the room? So I wanted to prove, and so when I had the constructive surgery, I was very concerned that I wasn't going to get the chance because I'd missed school for several months. One thing that enabled me to get 6 A's and go to Holy Child School was education technologies. Because at that time, they had the presidential initiative, special presidential initiative on something. So every time when I was in the hospital, I would watch on the screen, they would teach the lesson for the day, I would do my homework, I would follow up on the assignments. And I studied that, went back to school, wrote my BEC, got 6 A's, and went to Holy Child School. Thank you. So when I talk about EdTech and the solutions, it's not from a speechy point of view. It's actually a practical experience. And I know how much e-learning and education technology supports the average person. At the African Union Development Agency, we believe in the fact that EdTech solutions have a great potential to address the challenges that we have on the continent. At the February 2026 AU Summit, we launched what we call the EdTech Vision and Plan. And the idea is to ensure that every African child, irrespective of gender, of disability, of class, will be able to have access to educational tools and resources like the way I did, thanks to the government of Ghana, to be able to have access to the information wherever you are and use that to be able to meet your career goals and ambitions. We very much are passionate about addressing challenges with EdTech adoption on the continent. We want to know we did our own investigation. We had a series of interviews with various ministries of education across the continent. The report is on the AD and EPAD website, and they highlighted to us various issues like fragmentation, the fact that when a project ends, there isn't sustainability. There were so many issues that they highlighted, and those are some of the solutions that our EdTech vision and plan seeks to achieve. Now imagine if our digital public infrastructure for education was existent when I was in Sanergu, where the teachers will have access to the same resources or information that they can use to train the students there as those that were in Accra. I did my master's. I moved on to do my master's and my PhD in South Africa, and it was also a whole different world from my experience at the University of Ghana. But imagine if the University of Ghana students had that access that University of Pretoria gave to me. I believe that there will be a world of difference. Our circumstances don't have to change, but we can have the opportunity to share that knowledge and information across the continent, even within the respective circumstances that we have because we can't solve all Africa's problems at once, but we can ensure that knowledge and information doesn't face any barriers when it's shared across board. So today, my unscripted keynote is to challenge us as African states, and each and every one of us in this room, to look at how we can support EdTech solution and adoption across the continent. Please join us in implementing our EdTech vision and plan. We are very open to engaging with our stakeholders on how to define digital public infrastructure for education and ensure that the various actors benefit from it. We started what we call the Mwanga Waelimu movement, where we are bringing together all the various actors within the space. So it's not just government that is pressured to implement EdTech, but there are various actors, developers, even our community leaders, anyone that needs to be in the room to support effective harnessing of EdTech solutions. And once we are able to do this, I believe that there's some child also somewhere in Dambai or another part of Africa that will benefit from solutions and be able to serve Africa like I'm serving Africa now with the African Union through the availability of EdTech solutions. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to invite our favorite professor up on stage. Please help me with a very big round of applause to invite Professor Clement Jidonu. He's a distinguished computer scientist and Africa futurist, to give us his address. A round of applause for him, please, as he joins us.
Good afternoon. As you say in Africa, you weave the new rope to the old rope. I'm following up in the footsteps of my colleagues to acknowledge our Honorable Minister Haruna, other ministers present, colleagues, friends, and champions of Africa. My keynote topic is African Futures, advancing the enriched learning experience of the sovereign learner in the 21st century. The opportunity, possibility, and different perspective. Why this keynote topic? Madam Chair, this keynote topic is about reframing the conversation of learning in Africa. For too long, the focus has been on access, technology, and policy. They are important, but not sufficient, because they do not answer the deeper question: what kind of learning experience are we creating? And what kind of learner are we forming? This keynote shifts the focus from expansion to transformation, from systems that deliver education to learners who shape their own development. Here's my opening statement: framing Africa's future. Across Africa today, millions of young people are stepping into the learning space filled with promise. There is energy, there is aspiration, and there's belief. And yet, something does not fully align. Because many of our learning systems, however well-intentioned, were designed for the world these young people are not designed for the world these young people are about to enter. We are in many ways educating future-facing population with past-oriented models. And so we arrive at a defining question for African futures. Will Africa shape its own future of learning or inherit one that was never designed for it? Let's understand the past before we go to the future. To understand this moment, we must briefly look back from the traditional oral tradition of education to academies to modern institutions. Each era is shaped by the learning that fits its time. The systems we inherit brought structure, yes, let's admit that. It brought access and it brought legitimacy. But they were designed for stability, predictability, and replication. Our world today is different, more dynamic, more complex, and less predictable. Yet many systems today reflect earlier assumptions. So the challenge before us is not the absence of learning systems, but the need to advance them in alignment with the 21st century and beyond. Madam Chair, why this movement matters for Africa? This is not just about education, my colleagues. It's about Africa's future. Because the future of economies, the future of work, the future of societies all depend on the quality of learning and the capability of learners, emphasis on capability. Africa's youth population represents one of its greatest opportunities in this century. But that opportunity will never be realized if the learning system is just expanded rather than being enriched. Madam Chair, so the question becomes, what kind of learning experience are we advancing? And what kind of learner are we forming? The core shift, the sovereign learner. At the heart of this keynote is the fundamental shift from systems to the learner, from access alone to experience, from instruction to capability and agency. This is where the ideal of the sovereign learner becomes central. A learner who owns their learning, who adapts to change, who applies knowledge, who navigates complexity and shapes outcome. The African sovereign learner is not simply prepared for the future. The sovereign learner will be capable of shaping Africans' futures. Madam Chair, my closing remarks. Designing African futures. African futures of learning will not be accidental. It will not be imported either. It will be designed. Designed through how we see things, how we choose, and what we commit to build. So I leave you with 3 questions. What do we clearly see now? What will we choose to do with what we see clearly now? And what difference will Africa make because of it? Beyond these questions, Madam Chair, here's a call for action. Africa must act, not later, not incrementally, but now, with intention. This is a moment to move from seeing to choosing to building. A moment to rethink that learning is to reimagine what we can become and to commit to shaping things differently. Because the difference we seek will not emerge by its own. It will emerge from deliberate actions, from the choices we make, from the priority we set, and the courage to move forward beyond our inherited limitations. Transformation will not begin everywhere at once in Africa. It will begin where we see clearly. It will begin where there is a conviction. It will begin where there is a commitment. And from there, it will grow. And in the end, Africa's future of learning will not be defined by what is possible, but what Africa chooses to do and the difference it can make. And more importantly, Africa's futures will be shaped not only by what learning systems provide today or tomorrow, but by what learners in Africa become and what Africans become beyond learning. Let me close with 3 African proverbs. The first one is from East Africa, which states that not all who chase the zebra catch it or caught it, but the one who caught the zebra chased it. It means that you cannot catch a zebra if you don't chase it. But there's no guarantee that if you chase it, you will catch it. The answer is very clear. If Africa wants to catch a zebra, you must chase it. The next one is from my own tribe in Ghana here, which says Amotoyona. It originates from our mothers, when we are young, we are playing in the field, when it's time for you to go and bath and eat. Every mother comes out and calls their own. No mother calls somebody's child. It's called Amotoyona. You call your own. It's about time Africa start calling its own. The third proverb, Madam Chair, I forgot. Thank you very much.
This very smoothly dovetails to our next presentation, our next speech. Is one I've been looking forward to since I saw the lineup of speeches. It's by a very young and powerful lady. She is young. She's a Ghanaian economist. She's a statistician and a leader with experience in higher education, administration, data analysis, and policy-focused research. She's amazing. You would want to listen to her with rapt attention. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, I'd like to invite from UPSA, Cindy Ako Nyameche.
Honorable Haruna Ijusu, Minister of Education of the Republic of Ghana, distinguished guests from across continent and beyond, partners, policymakers, educators, innovators, and my fellow young Africans, good evening. I stand here today on behalf of All Africa Student Union, the continental voice of over 300 million students across Africa and the diaspora. This number is not just a statistic. Africa is indeed recognized as the youngest continent in the world. Behind it are young peoples in universities, TVET institutions, teacher training colleges, secondary schools, informal learning spaces, rural communities, and digital learning spaces. In sub-Saharan Africa alone, UNESCO estimates that roughly 98 million children and young people are currently out of school. Of those, a substantial proportion are expected never to return to formal education. 1 in 4 young Africans is NEET, thus not in employment, education, or training. These are the peoples whose future are written by the decisions we make in rooms like this one. So permit me to begin with a question. When we say Africa's time, Africa's term, who exactly is defining those terms? Is it the government alone? Development partners alone? Technology companies alone? Conference rooms alone? Or is it also a student trying to complete an online course with an unstable internet? The young woman learning coding for the first time? The TVET learner developing practical skills but fighting for social recognition? The unemployed graduate trying to convert a certificate into livelihood? The young entrepreneur building solutions without enough capital, mentorship, or market access? If it's Africa's time truly, then the young Africans must not be footnotes of this conversation. We must be co-authors of the agenda. Because when we speak about digital education, training and skills development, we must remember that education is not just about devices or platforms. It's about the people. It's about the families. It's about mothers who were denied opportunities, teachers who do their best with limited resources, students who keep learning against the odds, and communities that still believe that education can change destiny. That is why learning for sovereignty must begin with dignity. Africa's digital future must be smart and inclusive. Employability is not just about telling young people to improve themselves. It's equally about whether the system creates pathways for them to use their capabilities. A continent that imports its digital tools but does not train people to build them, adapt, govern them is not yet digitally sovereign. A continent that teaches students to memorize but not innovate is not intellectually sovereign. A continent that has the youngest population but does not trust them in decision-making is not yet developmentally sovereign. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, young people are ready to contribute, but we need a system that recognizes us as partners. Internet access is no longer a luxury. Devices are no longer extra. Digital literacy is no longer optional. If education and work are moving online, then exclusion from connectivity becomes exclusion from economic and social rights. Governments, private sector actors, and development partners must treat students' connectivity, affordable data, reliable electricity, and access to devices as core educational infrastructure, not a pilot project. Second, we must reform our curricula around our capability and not only certification. Our education system must still teach knowledge, but must also teach application. Every learner should leave school with the problem-solving skills, communication skills, digital competency, financial literacy, and civic awareness. The future will not reward those who only remember information. It will reward those who use knowledge responsibly and creatively. Third, we must build strong bridges between education, industry, and entrepreneurship. Industries cannot wait at the end of education pipeline and complain about graduates. It must help shape the pipeline. Employers, startups, universities, and student organizations should work together on internship, apprenticeship, innovation challenges, mentorship, work-integrated learning, and enterprise development. Fourth, we must put young people in rooms where education decisions are made. Not as a decoration, not as a token presence, not only to give speech on opening days. Young people must be involved in the curriculum reform, EdTech procurement, AI governance, digital strategy, climate education, skills policy, and institutional governance. If young people are the largest stakeholders in the education system, then the youth participation must become the governance principle, not a gesture. Africa cannot transform education country by country. We need continental corporations in digital learning, academic mobility, recognition of qualification, open educational resources, teacher development, and youth innovation. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area will not reach its full potential if skills cannot move, knowledge cannot circulate, young people cannot collaborate across borders. Africa's time is now. Let us build it like it. Let us teach it like it. Let us govern it like it. Let us include young people like it. The next big innovation must be from Africa. Thank you. Mesdames.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Minister for Education.
Thank you very much, Lydia, the Chief Director. My enormous pleasure and honor to welcome you to Accra, to the E-Learning Africa event, and to look forward to an intellectually stimulating and rewarding event. This morning, as we gathered, there are representatives of donors, academia, EdTech institutions, researchers. We welcome you all. I've seen that we are all determined to position Africa for a competitive, rapidly changing technological world. But it is my desire that this conference, this e-learning conference, must find answers to some nagging questions. One, where is Africa's place in the provision of robust infrastructure to support digital learning and information communication technology? Where is Africa's place when it comes to the software market? Where are we? Are we there? Can we compete and can we cope? And where is Africa's place when it comes to the soft skills? Are we there? If we find answers to this question, we probably will find answers to lead in sovereignty. And I challenge this conference to find answers to these questions. Education and training sector is by no means alone turning to various forms of partnership in a way of developing and delivering services. Partnerships have become a general trend throughout the global economy and continue to grow rapidly across the private and public sectors. So even if you want to get that infrastructure constructed, would it be government partnering with the private sector? Would it be government alone, or will it be with the private sector? We need to find answers even to how far is the reality of a global market with e-learning and e-learning products. Does local content matter, and to whom? How does Africa itself, and as a young lady brilliantly observed, the representative of the African Union, does the curriculum and our curriculum define and relate to our reality of who we are as Africans? Pedagogical changes must respond to this and respond adequately to that in defining who the African is and how the African takes advantage of information communication infrastructure to provide education. An immense amount of hope is pinned on what this conference will come out with, and maybe find answers to the simple definition and simplicity of e-learning. There is a great deal of unsupported hyperbole about its potential. I mean, e-learning is potential. Much of the development is very recent. Indeed, much of the promise is even yet untested, and untested in Africa. So when you say e-learning Africa, whose e-learning? Where did it originate from? And how are you going to benefit from it or utilize it to shape the future that we want? Let me now turn to some evidence before us. In Ghana, we have strived in the last decade to improve our digital education ecosystem and landscape. At least every Ghanaian student in a senior high school has access to a tablet. Embedded in it is the curriculum for the senior high school. Same was done for teachers. Government is now planning under President Mohammed's research agenda to roll out this from kindergarten to junior high school, so that at that level, as I stated this morning, our curriculum review committee is completing its work only this Friday, and we are incorporating AI, coding, artificial intelligence, and electronics into basic foundational learning in order that we prepare them for a world of e-learning tomorrow. I trust that many other African countries have done same or probably are doing better. Africa's future should not, as Chairperson rightly noted, should not be imported. And if Africa's future is not to be imported, e-learning must guide our path where we take advantage of information and communication technology to mainstream the way we learn and the way we work and the way we teach. Evidence abounds. I'm reliably informed that the MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellowship trained some 36 Ghanaian EdTech ventures and supported over 690 learners, and nearly half of them from rural underserved communities. We have launched the Basic Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics BSTEM program. We did so in 2025. The president was in Sola to get it launched. At least, as I said, in the seniors high school, 70% of the teachers had some access to a digital divide. The national curriculum microsite, with over 8.8 million downloads, professional learning community participation is measured at 88%, and tablet development in senior high school is currently ongoing. But, distinguished ladies and gentlemen from Africa, approximately 60% of the population of Africa is under the age of 25. And yet only about 38% of Africans use the internet, while between 70 and 80% of young people in sub-Saharan Africa lack basic digital skills. At the same time, decisions regarding data, the cost of data, digital platform, and artificial intelligence are too often made outside the continent. African learning sovereignty. This should not be imported. On that note, I say a warm welcome and akwaba to all of you to Accra. Enjoy the Ghanaian hospitality and our cuisines and feel at home whilst away from home. I couldn't end my statement without thanking the organizers for the choice of Accra and Ghana as venue for the e-learning conference. We cherish the opportunity to learn from members of academia and many research institutions how Africa can lead and lead in sovereignty and lead with sovereignty for the future of Africa. I thank you all.
So Africa's time, Africa's terms, learning for sovereignty, strength, and solidarity. This has been a very different edition of EdTech Monday, coming to you from the sidelines of this very important e-Learning Africa conference, where we delved into the subject we've been looking at. Don't forget, EdTech Monday is brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation with support from MEST Africa and airs on Channel 1 Television and 97.3 Citi FM once a month. Thank you for being part of this month's edition. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.